Education School Board meeting, committee meeting for December 14th, 2022. I would like to welcome all of you and thank you for your participation, particularly our guests from Lansdowne Borough. So we welcome you. And at this time, we'll turn the meeting over to Dr. B. Coates.
Good evening again, everyone. Thank you for the thumbs up. This is our agenda. I do want to request from the education chair that we modified slightly. Nothing is, the contents aren't changing. We're just going to change the order to be respectful of our guests from Lansdowne. So I would like to have Lansdowne Borough Partnership first, followed by the secondary course pathway project, and then the blended learning and technology update. So Madam Chair, if that is okay, that's the order that we will proceed in. And I think that's fine, so I'm going to continue. All right, so the first thing I will say is this. I do want to pause to celebrate one of my colleagues. I believe it was yesterday, Mary Agnew had the pleasure of defending her dissertation, and she successfully did it. And so I am really, really pleased to share with you that we have joining us this evening, Dr. Mary Agnew. So congratulations, Mary. I just wanted to share that and put that out there. And now
congratulations.
So now
Thank
we will go ahead on and start with the partnership for Lansdowne Borough. So just so that everyone will recall, about maybe a month ago, we received a communication from the borough encouraging us to have some conversations just to ensure that we are able to provide a safe and secure environment for all of our students as they transition from school to home. And we also wanted to make sure that the surrounding community was also in support of some of our efforts. So this is the copy of the communication that we received. Want to be very transparent. We did have an opportunity to meet with borough officials. We also, there were several people from the school district who attended a meeting actually at the Borough Hall, along with Chief Rutherford and other borough members. And we talked a little bit about what it would look like for us to strengthen our partnership. And so this will be an update. And Chief Rutherford, Council President Hoover, and Council Vice President, Taylor, please feel free to chime in. But I see we have the mayor here. Good evening as well. And so this was really an opportunity for us to talk about how we could potentially have some additional resources at the high school level, Penwood Green Avenue High School, for the 23, potentially 24 school year. And so the chief has been partnering with us all along this school year with trying to, I would say, curtail some activities that we do not want to have happen. We've had meetings with the Home and School Association of our school. We've also had sessions within the high school with students. So there are several activities that are going on to make sure that we're better able to support our students in the 23-24 school year, as well as this year. We've also had meetings with Wawa and other local businesses. So the thinking now is the chief and I followed up one-on-one, and we talked about what would a partnership potentially look like with having an additional resource in our building. And Chief, you can share more about what that might look like. But our thinking is that more of the details would come forward in and during the 23-24 budget process. So Jennifer, this item is probably going to move from the Education Committee meeting to budget, because ultimately it's going to be a budget impact given, or if we move forward with some plans that we had previously talked about. So Chief, I'm going to let you share some things, and other council members, you're more than welcome to share as well.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doc. I appreciate it. So first, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to everyone. Some of you may have already heard some of the things that I'm going to discuss, and I apologize for being repetitive, but like the doc said, we have been working with the school to address some of the issues and try and build a better relationship with the high school, and that's our area of focus because that's what's in Lansdowne Borough. And I'm sure other boroughs are also working on the same thing, but I'll stay focused on the high school. So, we've met a lot, we've discussed a lot of alternative. I also met quite a few times with the head of the security, Gary Rickards. So, one of the things that I'm going down the road and thinking of is possibly the use of a school resource officer. We haven't had one here in this district. In some recent districts, there's in a borough school district is probably the most recent one. So it's all new to me also. But the basics of it is that we'll have an officer in the school that can start building a direct relationship with the students and the staff. And it's not always on a negative basis. Most of the time when they see us, and that's unfortunate because of staffing, but most of the time when they see us, we're there for something. And it's usually not for something good. It's not necessarily something major, but whether it's a theft or an assault or, just a disorderly group, it portrays that we're always there for something negative. And, we're working on that, but my thinking and suggestion, and it would be helpful to the department, and I believe the school also, that having someone there on a regular basis when they see someone in uniform, that they realize, all right, well, maybe this he's here all the time, so there isn't a problem. And it could also add to having maybe students or teachers approach that officer because they see them all the time, and whether it's relaying information, things are about to happen, things that are heard. Mr. Curry, I'm sure you know some of your teachers that they give you information just because they told you, they heard it and they say, I want to give you a heads up, but that's all I'm doing. And that may be a little more coming to a law enforcement officer. Maybe they can ask a couple more questions that may be helpful to an investigation if that's the route it goes. So obviously there is an expense, and that's, probably one of the biggest hurdles. But, I'm here tonight just to get that ball rolling. And I think we've talked about it. And then, council president, Mr. Hoover, vice president, council person, Najee Taylor, and the mayor are all here in support of that. And I think all borough council is in support of that. And it also will assist us as the police department. We spend a lot of resource time there that could probably be handled by one officer. And again, we can focus back on the relationship between the officer, the students, and the staff. I enjoy going there. Doc will tell you, I enjoy going over there talking to the teachers. So I try and pop my head in there. But again, it's a resource thing where ideally it'd be great to just have someone walk through the building all the time. And some schools have some departments have the manpower. We are spread pretty thin with multiple schools. So I'll leave it at that, Doc. Or if any other of the council persons or the mayor have anything, or if anybody has any questions.
Board members? Oh,
Yeah, sorry, I'm late. Hi, Mayor Byrne. I just wanted to reiterate what the chief said. I think one is, as I said when we met, I really think a partnership is important with the borough. I think we're stronger together. And I know that this is not an issue that is, unique to Penwood. It's something that's happening in many schools. It was a rough 2 years, I get it. But in terms of what the chief was talking about, I just want to say that just to reiterate, we do have a really small police department here in Lansdowne, which makes sense because Lansdowne is not a big place. And I can see how having a resource officer would be helpful, just in terms of dealing with smaller things and not having to call 911 for things when it could be something that could be solved by a person that happens to be on site. So I just wanted to just sort of reinforce in a way what the chief is saying, because I do think it's a good idea. I know that it is a sensitive topic. But if you look at things in the larger picture, in the larger scale, just from a whole town perspective, I can see the value in having such a thing. So happy to answer questions or whatever folks want to talk about, but I just did want to reinforce what the chief said.
Thank you. Jennifer, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I think that, thanks everyone from Lansdowne for coming. We always appreciate your support. I think this project engages education policy and budget committees. Right, and to that end, if we could get a job description, just, you know, the brass tacks of what that employee will be doing, your employee, and then all costs. So we can, you know, try to deal with budget.
And Jennifer, I might add public relations to that. Yes,
Yep.
partnerships.
So community relations.
Mhm. Any other questions or comments?
Hi, this is Sino Naji Taylor, Vice President of Lansdowne Borough Council. And I just wanted to say that this school resource officer is not just an officer for issues or troubles at the school. We here in Lansdowne would like to build a network of community policing, which starts with getting a handle on things before they are a problem. We have had issues. The police have come to the high school, the Wawa, there have been issues after school, before school. So I do think as a council person and a resident, if we begin to foster a relationship that's positive, providing not just a sense of security, but a sense of community, where the students feel safe, the residents are safe, that begins a basic relationship that doesn't look like a security issue. It looks like we want everyone, the students, the parents, the teachers, the bus drivers, and the residents to be safe. So I think if we look at it from that perspective, it becomes a community relations triumph and not a security management issue. So I think that looking at it from that perspective and us beginning to wrap our arms around things before there is an issue, I think it would be better for us as a borough and as a school district. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Any other? Council President Hoover?
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank all of you for taking the time and allowing us to come and speak to the school board. I know that we have different jurisdictions and different issues that we deal with, but we do and have as a council wanted to be proactive and collaborative with the school district in the work that we're doing. I want to extend a gratitude to Dr. B. Coates for also fostering that relationship as well, that we've been tried very hard this year and going forward to work with the school district in that spirit of collaboration and recognizing what supports that we could give and what supports that the borough could give to look after the children in our community as well as the teachers in our community, that we recognize the partnerships that we need to build and we need to work with one another to make it a stronger community. So I do want to thank you for the time and doing the work to have the conversations with the borough and from the borough to all of you as well for having that kind of opportunity. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time to see us tonight.
Once again, thank you for your participation and your willingness to build community and the partnership that we all need. And so it's greatly appreciated. If Dr. B. Coates, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
You're muted.
Thank you again, council members, and we appreciate you being here. And we're going to proceed with our agenda. I believe next up on our agenda, you're more than welcome to stay and learn more about some great things that we're doing here in the district. We're going to get an update on our secondary course pathway. This is an item that was in our strategic plan, or is in our strategic plan. And not sure what happened. Hold on one second. Mr. Dunn is going to provide that update. Just bear with me 1 second, please. There we are. So, Mr. Dunn, you can take it away and I will be your advancer, sir.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm excited to share with you some updates regarding secondary course pathway and specifically some recommendations that we'll be making to the Education Committee tonight. So we can move forward. Also, I do want to acknowledge the team that I've been working with as like our core committee. We have some subcommittees that are doing this work, but I do want to acknowledge Dr. Lee, Mr. Curry, and Mr. Denenza, who have collaborated with me to move this item along. So just wanted to quickly, always start with our vision statement because it really drives our work, and it's a way of us to be able to check our progress to say, hey, is this the right direction? Does this align what we have stated as our goal? Dr. Mikos earlier mentioned the strategic plan, and this aligns with priority 3 and overarching goal 1, action strategy 1, overarching goal 4 and action strategy 1, particularly programmatic offerings. It also explicitly talks about our timeline. We want to see this in action by September 2023. And part of the action strategy is to review and modify not only grading procedures, which will happen later this year, but specifically for this work, programmatic offerings, as well as the high school course selection guide. So we're going to dive into that now. All right, so what I wanted to first start off with is that we have our vision and our strategic plan, but I think it's very valuable to ground this conversation in the data. So what I'm sharing here is from the Future Ready PA Index. And one of the components of that index is a college and career measures. And so this is the data. You probably have already seen these numbers. And it outlines here where we are currently, and it compares that to the state average. So there's a career standards benchmark, a high school graduation rate, industry-based learning, rigorous courses of study, as well as post-secondary transition. And the reason why I wanted to start with this is when we see our recommendation of how we're going to be designing or the direction that we went in terms of our secondary course pathway, it'll start to make a lot of sense. Because as you can see, we have some opportunity for growth, particularly around that college and career measure part. And so let's take a look at how we're going to address this through this work. All right, so once again, I want to tie in some of the research and data around this. One of the things that we're going to be talking about a lot in this presentation as a part of our recommendation is career academies. And so the easiest way to look at this is essentially we are aligning the academies and the pathways in our secondary schools to career themes. And the whole idea is differentiation. So moving from every single student is going to receive the exact same thing. We know that students have a diversity of not only needs, but desires and career goals. And what we want to ultimately do is prepare students for post-secondary pathways to college and careers that make the most sense to them. So I'm sharing some research from our research partner, EAB, and they produced a research report on these topics for us. And these were just 3 pieces of information that I think are valuable to share with the board and the community, but have really guided our work. The first one is that career academies have demonstrated to be a positive impact on student academic achievement. And we've had a lot of conversations, particularly around priority 1, around academic performance. Career academies build that engagement for students, and we see it for student academic achievement. Additionally, because of that differentiation and that ownership that students have, we see a decrease in dropout rates, and an increase in attendance, and an increase in credits earned by career academies and vocational courses. All right. And then lastly, we talk about what is the final goal, and that's to prepare students for the real world. And one of the other impacts of Career Academy is strong and sustained positive impacts that tie into specifically notably higher earnings, right? So students that are in these types of programs earn more than their counterparts that are not being exposed to this style or structure of education. So when we cross-reference the data that we started with of where we are currently with what the research says it could be possible, let's talk about now what is our recommendation as a result of this information. All right, so what we're going to be doing is looking through the lens of not only our priorities, but PDE has also offered guidance around what are the career clusters that are most in demand and in high need, and there's a list of them there. So this actually comes right from the state, and the state also has an initiative and some supports to align this work for us. As you guys know, we have a grant partnership with the state that aligns to building, particularly around STEM and offering course offerings and pathways that support that for our students. But I did want to, before we actually get into the what does this specifically look like for William Penn, let you know that later on you'll see the connection to these 16 different career clusters with the pathways and the academies that we are creating. So let's take a look at what they are specifically. All right, so let me explain what you're looking at here. So ultimately, in alignment with that career academy model, we're recommending creating 2 career academies. One is a Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics Academy, and the other one is an Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences Academy. And underneath those academies, there will be pathways that align to a specific set of courses and extracurricular experiences for students. So on our STEM side, we have health sciences, information technology, engineering, and mathematics. So students can choose any of those 4 if they decide to be in that academy. And on the other side of the house, we have fine arts, humanities and liberal arts, and that obviously includes a lot of sub pathways in there in terms of history and foreign language, things of that nature, as well as an education and social sciences pathway, and then a general education for students that are not yet decided as to what specific pathway or want more of a general approach to their, or traditional approach to their career trajectory. So we do have a lot of flexibility there. And what you see on the bottom, we also have a business administration and entrepreneurship concentration, which is optional for students, but it does not fit specifically in either one of the academies. And the reason why we did that is because we want students to have the flexibility to have that concentration without completely altering their coursework and coming out of the academy model. So how could that play out? So for example, a student may say, you know what, I want to be a forensic accountant, right? So they may decide that, hey, for my pathway, I want to be in the STEM academy and as a part of the mathematics pathway, but because I want to go into forensic accounting, I may want to take some additional business or entrepreneurship classes. So the primary driver of their coursework will be developed by the academy and pathway, but they will get additional courses in business that will prepare them and expose them to that type of content. All right, we can keep moving. All right, so just on these slides, what you'll see is the career pathways, the career clusters that were outlined by Pennsylvania Department of Education. There are 16 of them, and you can see how they fit into each of those academies. And we work really hard to make sure that the way we structured the academies, as well as the pathways underneath them, fit, so that when students do their career audit and do their surveys and their Naviance stuff, and it says, hey, we think that you'd be, really interested in architecture and construction, we would have a pathway underneath our academies that would accommodate them. So you can see some of them here. If we go to the next slide. This is the Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences Academy, and you can see some of the career clusters that align with that as well. And if you're keeping count at home, you're like, oh, I think we're missing a couple. I think there's about 3 or so left. If we go to the next slide, you can see that our business administration and entrepreneurship concentration captures those last 3. And like I was saying before, students obviously, are still trying to figure out what they want to do, and they may want to be able to experience multiple. particularly related to this concentration, they can blend those, right, and be exposed to them. So we didn't want to be so prescriptive as to have, 7 or 8 pathways, distinct pathways underneath each academy. We wanted to have it be broad enough so that students can be exposed to multiple career clusters and enhance the the career academy effect. All right, we can keep moving. All right, so probably one of the things you're thinking is, okay, what happens next? What are some things that we need to be thinking about? What does this work include? So one of the things that we're going to have to do as a part of this work, and you actually saw it in the wording of the strategic plan, is we're going to be adjusting the course selection guide. And so what we're going to be passing along to the board is our recommendations for some new courses, where we'll outline the course description, the syllabus of that course, so that we can vote on some of these courses, because what we realize is that we couldn't just reorganize the current courses and address all of these different pathways. We needed to create some new things. We also needed to potentially remove some things that were either redundant or didn't fit well, or that needed to be repurposed. So we're going to be adjusting the course selection guide, and you guys are going to be a part of that process. One of the other parts of it is adjusting local graduation requirements. So as a result of this change in career academy model, right, we not so much that we are going to completely change everything, but in order to be able to do this, we're going to have to offer more periods during the course of the day, right? So whether that be a 7-period day or 8-period day, and as a result of that, based on the current graduation requirements are based on, a 6-period day, we're going to have to adjust the graduation requirements to reflect, access to more credits. The next part is the expansion of external partnerships. And so we have a variety of different partners that we're going to have to work with in this work. So one of them that I actually got a chance to sit in on a meeting with yesterday was our Ramp to STEM partnership, which partners with us with the DCIU, as well as state leaders, as well as Delaware Community College, about things like, hey, there's some courses that we won't be able to offer on campus. How do we partner with our local community college to make sure that kids get access to that? How do we get access to certification programs? How do we get access to the training? And, some of those folks actually sat on our committee and gave us feedback around this. So we want to expand those external partnerships, as well as like local businesses, right? Because we want, one of the metrics that you saw earlier was, industry-based learning. And one component of that is actually having work-based experiences. So how do we partner with local businesses to be able to address those needs? I mentioned this a little bit before, but I'll reiterate it. A reconfigured secondary school schedule. Currently, we have a 6-period day at our 9th grade academy, as well as the Green Avenue campus. And we're going to have to at least expand that to 7, if not 8 periods, to be able to get students exposed to enough content so that they can, take advantage of these pathways. And that was part of the feedback that we got both from students and from teachers, is that they had to make these hard decisions between, do I take this course or that course, because I can't take both because I don't have enough room, right? So we wanted to adjust that and make sure that we created the opportunity for students to be able to take advantage of a full pathway that mattered to them. The next part is really around training. So restructuring student guidance protocol. So this is a new language for us, right? So we're moving from everybody does the same thing in relatively the same order to something that's more differentiated. And to make sure that we are supporting students in this work, we're going to have to train teachers and counselors and staff and admin about, like, how do we make good recommendations? When you sit down in front of a kid and they say, hey, I'm really interested in coding, what does that mean in terms of pathway? What does that mean in terms of the actual courses that they're going to take? When they say, I don't want to take this class, I want to take that class, what is the type of advice and guidance that we're given? So we're going to there's going to be some training that goes along with that. And once again, implied in that is student and community education. So starting as early as possible in our elementary schools, so that the kids are starting to get exposed to career opportunities and starting to think about, hey, what do I want to do not only when I go to college, but what do I want to do when I go to high school? And talking to parents and having them engaged in this process. And it's going to be an adjustment. Some of the changes are not what they experience as students. So it's going to be an education process for everyone. The next part is just embedded in all the work we do is we want to integrate systems of continual improvement. So what we're doing right now is a start, and we're going to put it out there to see, to get to begin this process and see how people receive it, see if it's creating the outcomes that we want. But we also need to be monitoring our progress, right? So, you know, the Future Ready is a great 1-year snapshot, like year to year, to see how we're making progress on some of these things. But we also need to have some systems along the way to make sure that we're taking into account, you know, student feedback and teacher feedback and community feedback to continually improve this. We may be a year and a half or two from now where they say, hey, I'm in the information technology, and I know there's AP computer science, but I'm really interested in coding, and there's a need from like our, you know, course request that we need to have like a coding maybe not academy, but coding courses specifically as an example. So we may need to continually monitor these things so that we're making sure that we are flexible given student needs. All right, and the last two I have in red, not because they're bad, but because they could potentially represent cost implications. So the first one is the writing of curriculum and adoption resources, and the second one is the providing of teacher professional development. And so we'll go to the next slide where I'll provide a couple of examples of what this may look like. So I don't mean this to at all be an exhaustive list. We're still fairly early in this portion of the process and fleshing out exactly what this will look like. But I just wanted to give you an idea of like, so how does the writing of curriculum and adoption resources translate into cost? So for example, the way we currently do curriculum writing is we you know, in-source, not outsource. So we work with teachers and they actually come in and do the curriculum writing under the guidance of academic services. And there's a cost associated with that. So for example, last year, the past summer, we spent about $10,000, roughly give or take, you know, compensating teachers to come in during the summer and do some of this curriculum writing work as we built out our instructional planning guides for math, ELA, and science from K to 12. As we moved into this, that will be a continual part of that process, but there's obviously brand new courses. One of the ones that I'm really excited about is our engineering course that we're going to be recommending. I hope I'm not giving away any secrets ahead of time, but and seeing what that looks like and some of the connections there, a data science course that we're talking about in mathematics. So someone's going to need to write that curriculum. And in conjunction with that, new curriculum means new resources, whether that be physical textbooks, online digital materials. So to give like a rough estimate, roughly $5,000. Obviously, we'll build a budget around that. I talked a little bit about the engineering program. Part of that is 3D printing and CAD design for some of the folks that are familiar with that. So there'll be some physical material cost to that. So not to say that this is exhaustive, but once again, there are going to be physical materials that we may need to buy to actually make this real for students. And then the second half of that is professional development. I talked a lot about supporting teachers as we make this shift. One of the things that is a portion of that PA career and college measure is rigorous courses of study. And one of those categories is AP courses. So, and you'll see this next week, we're going to be recommending several new advanced placement courses. And in order for teachers to be certified in that, they need to be trained. And so there's different ways to do that. There are summer institutes to get them started and get them ready. But then once we are there, we want to continue to support them in that work. So AP mentoring courses. And so just to give you a rough estimate of how much that costs, I talked a little bit about the data science courses. So some of these brand new courses, we need to get them trained on these new unique things. So that's an example of a virtual workshop that would train a math teacher on our data science course. And just in general, our professional development cost is $25 per hour. So whether we do after school, summer, whatever the case may be, to train people and support them in some of these shifts, that's the cost per hour per teacher. So hopefully that gives a little more clarity around some of the cost concerns. So now what I'll do is I'll pass it to the board and to the audience to see if there are any current questions.
Any questions? Jennifer,
I think you're muted.
you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Dunn. It's very, very exciting for everyone. I just have a couple of questions and they do not have to be answered this evening.
Sure.
What percentage of classes would be common to all students, that is ninth grade English or 10th grade algebra 2 or something like that. Second, I'm sure, but I just have to say it out loud, this aligns with the college credits our students may need, as in 4 years of math, 4 years of language, etc., whatever that moving target is. And NCAA clearinghouse, this will align with that, right? A young person who has dreams of playing at the college level will have all their requirements. And my favorite one, which I'll watch Dr. B. Coates' head spin off, is this a time that we can look at later start times, which have been medically and wellness, all the reports say that it's a better thing for teenagers to not be at school by 7:30.
We are going to be looking at the start time and end time, Jennifer.
Yay, thank you. I'm excited.
No problem. And I've made a note of the other questions, and what I would like to do is just provide that back to all board members, but thank you. I appreciate it. I think those are some excellent questions.
Thank you.
Excellent questions.
Are there any other questions?
I have a question. Well, a couple.
Archie?
All right, so I might have missed it, but what's the time frame that we're looking at that we're trying to transition? And during that transition time, the students who have, credits for 6 periods a day, how will that translate to some of those students who now need to get 7 periods a day? For example, current 9th graders may probably be caught up in this. Well, how will that affect their credit structure? Is there a transition period or, something to that effect? Do we have a plan for that? I know, once that cohort moves through, everything works, but what about that cohort that's transitioning with us while we go from 6 periods to potentially 7 or 8 periods a day? How will that look? What are their graduation requirements? Are they the same as the 6 period, or are they transitioning some sort of hybrid?
So there would be oh, go ahead, Ed.
No, you got it.
Oh, I was just gonna say there would be a transition plan. I mean, obviously we know that you just can't develop this and say implement immediately. So similar to when graduation requirements are changed by the state, there's a certain period of time or a certain class that impacts. Everyone else is then grandfathered. So the ultimate goal is to make sure that we do not deny any student the opportunity to take advantage of some unique offerings. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we maintain and improve our graduation rate. So there would be a process or something in place where you would be looking at potentially 2 tracks or pathways going on at the same time for a period of time, just to make sure we get students through.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then
I'll speak a little bit on that. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to speak a little bit on the timeline in terms of the actual courses. So some of the brand new courses will be starting in the fall of 2023, obviously pending board approval. Some of them, because of the nature of the prerequisites, won't start to the following year. So I'll just use a quick example of, like, let's say AP computer science, right? We need to have an intro to computer science course that we will offer in 23 before students then had the prerequisite skills or coursework to do an AP computer. So some of them will just have to be a 2024 so we can build out the prerequisites. Yep.
And also one more thing, have we, to take a look at the schedule, have we considered some sort of like 6-day rotation where, the days of the week don't matter? We go away for a holiday, come back, whatever that next day is, that's where the schedule kind of picks up. Have we considered that? I mean, again, these are some thoughts. I don't need an answer tonight. I just want some folks to think about that as well.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. So just to give you an idea of our structure, so that committee that we talked about at the beginning, Dr. Lee is actually chairs our STEM committee. Mr. Curry was stemming in our, I forgot the acronym for them, but our Liberal Arts Academy. And then Mr. Denenza, the principal of the middle school, is actually chairing our scheduling committee. And his committee is actually having those conversations and thinking about what does this look like holistically, but also each individual building is different, right? So it might look a little bit different at the middle school than it does at Ninth Grade Academy in Green. But yes, that is one of the things that we have talked about, and we're excited to finalize those specific recommendations for you soon as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
The ultimate goal with this is to ensure that we have a K-12 continuum. So I know we've talked before, like the next phase is to see what's happening at the elementary schools, so that when families move into our district or they talk about the William Penn School District, we will be able to say, we can offer your child a continuum grades K through 12, and this is what they can graduate with. So that's the ultimate goal.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very exciting. My comment is, and you mentioned it in your presentation, Mr. Dunn, but as much as possible, if we can make sure that we're preparing our students who will be a part of this process of the anticipated changes, and make sure that they're aware of this is drastic. It's exciting, but it is significantly different from what it is that our students are currently experiencing. And then in addition to that, I would just add, when you talked about community partners, I connected with one today that I think would be excellent as we are building out how we can support our students and engage in our community. Her student, the person or the resource, and I'll share this with you offline, currently has an 11th grader within the district, and I do believe would be a tremendous asset to what it is that we're doing moving forward. So thank you for all of your hard work. Yes, Ms. Hoff, before we
Thank
move
you.
on.
I'm sorry, one more question. Again, not for tonight. How does this affect the DCCC Pathways programs? Not the dual enrollment, because that's after school, but the pathways. What would encourage a student to stay with us and do that versus get a jump on their associates? Or could our students also get a jump, or, students get a jump on their associates by how we're doing this also?
Yeah, definitely. We're going to talk more about specifically what are the courses in the pathway and how that would align with our external partners. But one of the things that we also want to do, and you alluded to it, was expand our dual enrollment opportunities, right? So that kids can stay on campus in a supportive environment. And actually, one of the things that we're working on is getting our teachers trained so that students can get college credits on our campus from our teachers, which is really exciting.
Great.
And yeah, so like even from the AP perspective, AP is great, but there's also a test associated with that. What if the kid could just take that college credit on campus and just pass the class without that additional barrier to entry? So yeah, we're taking a look at all that, and we're excited about that being the next phase of what we're going to share with you guys.
So I'm sorry, I have another question. Some of the pathways require additional courses. Do we have staff already trained to teach those courses, or are we needing to hire new staff to address those courses?
Great question. So one of the things that we mentioned in terms of cost is that teacher professional development. So the courses that we're currently recommending, we do have the capacity to address that with our current staff, but some staff would have to get trained, and we've already started to have those conversations with folks that are interested in getting those additional certifications or those AP qualifications. So currently we will, but we may also need to take a look at if we don't have the teacher desire to address some of those areas, we may need to also hire. So I'll use a specific example. Currently, Mr. Joseph is our only physics certified teacher at Green Avenue. And as a result, if you're having an engineering program and you're going to be offering AP physics and engineering and all these other courses, we need more than just Mr. Joseph, who's really excited about it, but he can't do it by himself. The good thing is that there are pathways for teachers to just get a second certification. But if we don't, then that will be something that we'll have to look at, is we may have to go externally to hire. And so we'll be able to give more specific detail on that once we give the next phase of information related to this, which you should be expecting in January.
And just to follow with that, the teachers who are interested in some of these new course pathways that they may want to pursue that do not have the correct certifications or the adequate certifications, are we working with them to find how they can get that certification, or is it up to them to kind of figure out how that goes about? Or do we do an emergency cert and have them work on trying to get that certification in the meantime?
Yeah, so I do want to say we're early in this process. Like, we're giving you this information and we've been having these conversations. So there aren't a ton of specific examples that I can refer to right now. But what I will say, and we have some principals on the line now, if they wanted to chime in, that is a case-by-case basis. And what we want to do from our side systematically is making sure that we're supporting that and have a process so that teachers don't have to essentially go into the wilderness to figure this out, because they're a huge part of this change. And them being able to expand their certifications and skill set is going to be critical to this plan. So we're going to partner with that. And, obviously that's part of what we talked about with the cost piece. When we talked about the AP certifications, the idea is what we would pay for teachers to get that certification. We would pay for them to spend that additional time to do this work. So there's a cost associated with that. And to answer your question, yes, we do want to partner with teachers in this work to make sure that it gets done, and it gets done the right way.
And is there a university that we would want to partner with, or could partner with, that they would, take their coursework there and get certified? I mean, I don't know if it's a possibility, or we have that in place, or something we could work on. That way, it's simple for the teacher to say, I want to take this. We sign them up. They go. Let's just use the example of Westchester University. They go there, or we sign up with Penn and they do it there. Wherever works. I don't know if that's a possibility where they would get some sort of reduced tuition to complete it, and then we know that they're getting the right accreditation for their certification.
No, that's a great piece of feedback. I definitely will take that.
And I think there are opportunities to do that even at Delaware County Community College too.
Yes.
So that's something that we would definitely be working on, because in my mind, that's a part of the process, because we want to maintain and keep the people we have. And if they want to be a part of the program, we help grow them to get them to where they can better support our students.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the teachers having to go look for a program that helps them do this. If we could set those up, it would just make it easier for our teachers to get these extra certifications to do the wonderful work that we know they can do.
Yep, that is the goal. That is the goal. And so I think that this discussion is a great lead-in to the next item on the agenda, because we've talked a lot about the what, but obviously there's something behind all of this that's making everything work. And so Dr. Agnew and Khalid is here this evening from the DCIU, and you guys will recall that we partnered with the DCIU to audit our technology. And there was a report that came out that talked about things that we needed to do and things that we needed to get done. So this is an update for the board as it relates to where we are with those items. And given that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Agnew and Khalid and let them take it from here.
Thank you, Dr. Bigot. Good evening, everyone. I apologize for my voice. I've been fighting flu for the last couple of days. So, on this slide, we see an update of for the major projects that we determined were needed as a result of audit. The slide is split into two different areas: the completed projects and projects that are in progress. I'm going to just touch base on some critical ones here. Obviously, IT staffing is a critical piece for the success of any IT department. It's been an interesting journey of getting a qualified people on board, because as you may know, there was a lot of staffing issues and within the last couple of years that we faced as a country. I would say very unusual, but it is what it is. Email domain consolidation. This project resulted because William Penn School District had very convoluted email system. There was multiple domains, and we integrate everything under one domain and made it all work. As part of audit, we determined that there was no archiving in place, which is a required piece for school districts, and it's written in the board policy. So that was implemented along with the email protection. Now, cybersecurity is a critical piece. And as all of you read news, many school districts become target of ransomware attacks nowadays. We did have a share of attacks in our county as well. And what we implemented here is a solution that is 100% proof against ransomware called CrowdStrike. And that's a big piece that we worked on, and we're going to touch base on that. And one of the following slides is a 10-year infrastructure plan. It is critical to know what to expect, right? Without proper planning, it's very hard to achieve a success. So what we created is a very comprehensive document of all of IT expenses that that district is expected to incur within the next 10 years. Okay, we're going to go through that document, and I will explain you all of the elements in one of the following slides. Server infrastructure upgrade. As part of audit, if you recall, we found that servers of William Penn School District were in disarray. There was a mix of old servers without proper redundancy in place. So we successfully completed that project by moving the server infrastructure to private cloud. And there are some, excuse me, some projects that are in progress. One of the most notable one here to touch base on is a phone system replacement. If you'll ask any IT person, they'll tell you they hate phones because no IT personnel wants to deal with phones. So, we determined that your phone system is very aging to the point of it's well past its life expectancy. And what we're working on right now is obtaining appropriate quotes and testing appropriate solutions to replace your current phone system. We expect to have annual savings by implementing this phone system because your current expense is higher than what we anticipate it's going to be after the new system is implemented. Next slide, please. The huge piece here is the ticketing system and the help desk, service desk in general. This was not in place, at William Penn School District, and it is now. And the team is successfully managing the service desk. We have 4 techs at buildings. Some are permanently located at buildings. One or two might be floaters. This is managed by Dr. Agnew. And we have a network system admin who manages network infrastructure. And we have one person who is on phones at all times to answer any kind of IT inquiries from your staff. It's amazing, but we already completed over 6,100 tickets just this year. Okay, this is significant, and I'm going to explain why. The data that we get from these tickets will help us, and this is yet to come, will help us understand our deficiencies. Why do users have 6,100 IT requests, right? Is it something that can be fixed by implementing certain automation? Is it something that can be fixed by providing additional user training? Ultimate goal is to have less tickets, which would allow staff to do what they need to do, and IT to concentrate on important stuff rather than resetting passwords or dealing with Chromebook operating systems. So excuse me. Next slide, please. Dr. Agnew.
I'll talk about this slide. Some other implementations that we've had are the scholarship and eSchool integration at Green Avenue, which helps with attendance and with students checking in. The PBIS rewards implementation at several buildings, which is a positive behavior system where it will give students rewards and for engaging in meeting their behavioral goals. And so it's a real motivator to help students engage in positive behavior. We also implemented the Swiss program at Walnut Middle, the middle school, Park Lane, and the 9th grade academy. And what that does is it lets the administrators analyze discipline data so they can make informed decisions about discipline policies throughout the school, as well as identify students that may need additional supports. And we've already prepped over 800 Chromebooks for distribution for the start of this school year. We have 340 that are still in progress. So we are going to be doing them over the Christmas break, actually. So we will have 1,140 computers ready.
If you recall, as part of the audit document, we provided this form, a scale of service desk levels, and the district was at level 0 because the service desk was non-existent. There was a lot of repetitive issues. It was not the documentation, not a clear way to contact IT for help, etc., etc. So this is where we are now. The red arrow points to level 2, and the plan is to get you to level 3 by adding some additional quality elements. One of them is integration of processes. For one good example of a process is IT procurement, right? It is critical, very critical for IT department to control IT procurement. There are a few reasons for that. Number one is IT department knows what hardware to purchase for consistency purposes. Number two is every hardware or software purchase, especially software, needs to be compliant with 2 pieces. One is ADA requirements. It's a requirement by Department of Justice for all LEAs. And second is cybersecurity piece of the software. Allowing non-IT personnel purchasing software can create a lot of compliance issues that can lead to lots of problems. So that's where we are with the service desk management maturity model. Next slide, please. So this slide is dedicated to the technology infrastructure plan. Dr. Bickers, could you open it? It's not coming up, I think.
Is there a certain tab you want me to go to?
Yeah, did you click on it? Did it open up?
It did. I mean, I see it in front of me. Do you guys not see it?
No, we don't. Yeah, that's why we have
yeah.
confusion.
I see it.
Could you drag it to this other screen?
Hold on one second. Oh, that's interesting. Why isn't it there?
With your screen sharing, you have to share the whole screen, not just the tab. So you might go out or I can share it. Let me see if I can pull it. The infrastructure plan you want?
Yes.
Right, okay.
All right. Can you go to projected expenses here and scroll to the left if you can? Upper left corner.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. It's a pretty big document, so. Yeah, we want to go to cell A1.
A1, okay.
So this infrastructure plan consists of all of anticipated expenses associated with your district. It's broken down by categories. There's network infrastructure, UPS and backup systems, software and security subscriptions, server infrastructure, etc., as well as staff computers and Chromebooks. Mary, if you can scroll to the right a little bit, I want to show the expense. So the column N reflects a total cost needed for each hardware software element, okay? And in order to have appropriate funds to cover these purchases, we broke it down over 10 years for allocation purposes. We're going into a little bit into accounting world here, but we want this money to be flowing into IT budget so that, you know, it can cover appropriate switches purchases in 2017 or, you know, extending server contract, et cetera, et cetera. This is a pretty comprehensive document. It will take a lot to go over every little detail, but it covers it all pretty much. And looking at it, basically what it will show you is what is needed financially to support technology operations at your district.
And so again, Jennifer, this is one of these items that, you know, we start in education, but we will see it again in budget. So when we think about the 23-24 fiscal year, we would probably be looking at column P on this chart to start determining, okay, what are some things that we need to budget for to make sure that we're able to maintain what we've started. That's just an example. And Halid, please correct me if I'm wrong with that.
That is absolutely correct. Yes, Dr. Bicos. It's, you know, you want to plan for the next 10 years because some of the stuff here is replaced once per 10 years. Like for example, network switches, all of the green lines, you see estimated useful years to be at 10. That means that if you replace a switch in 2023, next time you have to replace it in 2033. But if you don't continuously allocate money to your IT budget to cover that purchase in 2033, then when 2033 comes, you'll start scrambling, trying to figure out, you know, where to get money to replace it. So it's basically for planning purposes. Another advantage of having such infrastructure plan is this way the school board can actually see comprehensively what's there, right? And the IT department of William Penn can go to the board once every 6 months and just tell the board, according to the infrastructure plan, this is what we're planning to purchase in the next 6 months. This way we don't do it every month or so, right? It's more organized approach. Okay, I think we are done with the infrastructure plan. I'm sure you'll have a chance to glance at it yourself, to analyze it, and I'll be more than happy to answer any more questions that you might have about it later on. So we can go back to the presentation now.
Jennifer, you had a question?
I do, but I'm happy to wait whenever, however you guys want me to do it.
We'll proceed and then we'll come back.
I'm writing them down.
Okay, so I wanted to give an update. Last year, I had mentioned to the board in the board update about Stay Mobile, who was our repair company. They had gone bankrupt and we had several hundred computers that were still with that company. Bloom, that used to be Troxel, they took over the repair contracts and they have been repairing and returning devices to us. So as of last week, we actually had 523 returned to us out of the 730 that they had. So that's an additional number of Chromebooks that are being distributed to the buildings from which they came. The other thing that we did because of the state mobile bankruptcy is we moved to the DCIU for repair and summer cleaning. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Previously, when we had state mobile, we would send them out. It would take about a month for the turnaround time. Now that we're using the DCIU, they pick up the devices from the buildings themselves and they return them within a week in most cases. It's very rare if it'll be 2 weeks, but in most cases, it's 1 week that we get them returned. So the pickup and delivery is to each school location, which really helps with tracking and with moving with the speed with which the Chromebooks are able to be returned. And they're also cleaned and sanitized with UV lights while we're there, and all the repairs are documented as well. The last thing I wanted to talk about is we created a tech hub for all of the staff to use, and this is being shared with the staff. What I've done is I have the different tech liaisons at the different buildings. They will give us things that they're doing in the building, and then we share it on the website so that all the teachers have access to that. So just how to use different tools, how to do different things that you might encounter in the classroom. So trying to really build out more of the ed tech side of the technology department. And then that's it, unless anybody has any questions. And there are attendees with questions, just to let you know.
We'll start with the board, and Jennifer, you can go, please.
Oh, great, thank you. And I'm so sorry you're sick. Everyone's sneezing in the whole window. Regarding IT, do these numbers allow for inflation and increase of costs? Because they were pretty stable going for the 10 years, and I just don't know IT expense to be like that.
They're not. We use the same model at DCIU, and what we do is yearly we adjust those numbers because inflation is so unpredictable. You can't really, figure it out even for next year or so. So it will require ongoing work on the plan by adding another year because it's 10 years. As time goes by, you have to add another column, for the year and stuff. So
Got it. So these are whole numbers. You had an E-rate column, but you haven't reduced those future columns by the E-rate amount, correct?
that is correct. Yes, I prefer not to include E-rate, but let business office and board know that those items are E-rateable and eligible for reimbursement.
Great, thank you. Can we? I appreciate the way you budgeted. It's not familiar to me to put away money like that within our budgeting, sort of calendar year. So would that, and I don't need an answer now, would that money flow to fund balance while we're saving it up and not, expending it, or does it all just sort of work out because you're buying one thing one year and another thing another year, et cetera?
So I discussed this with Bob. I'm not sure if Bob is on the call, but he had a method for which we could allocate the funds so he has a method for doing it. So I discussed that with Bob, but I can get back to you about that.
We'll just bring that up at the budget meeting because that's where this is going to wind up moving to.
Yeah. I'll be taking a vacation from now on. And the last thing, there's been a lot of conversation on a state level about our student information and HIPAA. Is everything we're doing with that lens? Because our sense is maybe on a state level that we're about to become accountable on a whole new level for student information if folks have their way with us.
Mary, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I can answer that. So that would be FERPA for schools. We are compliant with that. And most of the information that would be entailed would be in our eSchool system, which you need a secure login to get into.
Okay.
But I can also have student services get back to you about that.
Right, the entire
that.
board and whenever. It's just been a conversation on the state level and they're all a little concerned about what legislators could ask us to, sort of do with our data in the future.
I've
Yeah.
made a note of it, and as always, we'll just include these updates in our biweekly process.
Oh, and I'm sorry, last thing, can the school board director see the IT hub? Can we kick the tires a little bit?
You're muted, Mary.
I'll share the link in the chat with you.
Thank you.
Mhm. And I'll put it on the board update,
Okay.
in the next board update. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Really
Thank you.
exciting stuff.
Mary, can you help with those who are raising hands and
Yeah, I can actually see them. Miss Wright has her hand raised.
Ms. Wright?
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My question, I don't know if this is the appropriate time for it. It was one in reference, one from Mr. Dunn. So if you want to get all the questions related to the technology, that's fine with me. I can wait, or I can ask it now. What works best for you?
You can ask your question, Ms. Wright.
Oh, okay. Mr. Dunn, I first of all just wanted to tell you thank you so very much for sharing the information for parents and the community. And specifically, I just wanted to ask, just to comment on, I'm quite excited about the idea, and I know we had talked about it, the board had talked about it before, but in speaking again about the idea of, as you expand your partnerships with the Delaware County Community College, that we're talking about the possibility of dual enrollment classes being taken on the William Penn campus for the students. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay, so I think that's a wonderful direction to be headed into for our students. The other question that I had I know Mr. Dunn, you mentioned, of course, is that it's very early stages. With the conversations that are being had for the expansion with the businesses and corporations, and as we already mentioned, DCCC, and you mentioned DCIU, does the conversation include summer internships for the students?
Yeah, definitely. We're going to be looking at all of those aspects, and not only just the internship side from on the career side, but academically. So we've actually this past summer started some of that, expanding some of the enrichment programs that are available to high school students outside of just remediation. But some of the things we're going to be doing offering acceleration opportunities. So let's say we have a student that really wants to go and get the AP Calc, but maybe didn't get the prerequisite coursework to be able to get that over the summer, and create those different opportunities, or to be able to take advantage of a DCC or a dual enrollment and need some acceleration to happen over the summer. So yes, from an academic standpoint, we've had a lot of those conversations. We need to continue to have more of those conversations on the career side, particularly around internships and summer work experiences.
Okay, that's wonderful. And my last point that I just wanted to check with you, I was very pleased when you mentioned that also as a part of the conversation with our planning, that you're going to later address the parents at the elementary school level and the families, because I think just to ignite and continue to support ideas of dreams that they may be developing, that's a wonderful idea, to expand that to the elementary level. And I was just wondering, has the conversation already included, or will it also include having career fairs at the elementary level for exposure?
That's a great idea. I'm going to write that down. And I think we definitely can integrate something like that into our plan.
Great.
And the answer is yes. And just so that you know, we did take all of our counselors from all schools, K through 12, to Delaware County Community College this summer. We've had planning sessions with them, and we're continuing those efforts. So more information will be coming out about opportunities for elementary students at the college level now.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we have one more person, I believe, that has their hand up, Ms. Commodore.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening and welcome.
Yes, I asked a few questions. It was back with the phone systems that were being replaced in the buildings. I was asking which buildings were the phone system replaced and how was that decided? I don't have to have an answer tonight. And also talking about the upgrading of the camera systems and which buildings that took place in. Because, you know, safety has been a real issue throughout the world, especially in our schools with shootings and unwanted guests getting into the buildings. So just want to make sure our camera systems are up to par. And if so, which schools has that been implemented in? And another major key thing, which definitely affects my job, was it said that it was completed with eSchool and scholarship intertwining with each other, that it was completed where it was automatically scholarships attendance going into eSchool. I can honestly say, and my principals are aware of this and my vice principal, that doesn't happen here. I am still putting in the attendance and having to get it in by 12 o'clock. That is difficult at times. And a lot of parents are frustrated of getting the phone calls that are saying that their child is not, is absent, when actually the child is tardy. And I do explain, after I explain the system to them, they're like, oh, okay, I understand. But then they'll say, wait a minute, you had that problem a few years ago. And I say, yes, I said, but we're working on getting this, you know, it's making stages of advancement. So to say that this is completed, it's not completed, because there are still a lot of issues with scholarship, not downloading the information properly all the time, having to rerun the system to make sure you have up-to-date reports and timeframes. It's a constant thing it's still being fixed and worked on, so we can't say that it's completed. And then the other thing, as being a tech liaison, with our Chromebooks going out, yes, it is a faster turnaround rate. However, sometimes we can send out 10 Chromebooks, but 5 of them will still come back to us as being broken. What do we do with those? Like, that defeats the purpose. And we have Chromebooks that are still of the round chargers. Those are being discontinued. We have the 3100 series Chromebooks, and right now we're running into a lot of glitches and problems with the Google. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Our IT has come very advanced, but there's a lot of things that we need to still continue to work on. And I think we all need to be on board about that. And discussions should be done. More discussions should be done.
I can
Thank you, Ms.
cover.
Commodore.
I can cover answer questions 1, 3, and 4. And Dr. Agnew, you probably can talk for cameras. So the phone system project is at very early stages of discovery. What we're doing now is we're trying to figure out the needs, trying to obtain the quotes. Yes, it will affect every building. The phone system will be replaced in its entirety. So there will be no old phones at any of the locations. But more communication obviously will be coming to the board as we are ready to move to the next phase of the project. Question number 3 about integration issue. What we'll do is, I don't have an answer for that, but we're definitely going to revisit this as early as later this week with Dr. Agnew and see what's working and what's not. And we will work on that to get it fixed. As far as question number 4, what we see is Chromebooks are being sent sometimes that are beyond repairs, and we just don't have ability to fix something that will cost $300-400 to fix. It just doesn't make sense. It just needs to be replaced. So those are the cases you probably see. Mary, do you have anything more on item 4?
Yeah, we actually have Chromebooks set aside for the high school. We're just waiting for when they want them to be given to them. So we have about 250 Chromebooks that we're just looking for guidance of when they want them. We had a meeting last week meeting with the other tech liaison and the administrative staff where we discussed this, and we have Chromebooks set aside to go to the high school. We just need some guidance of when they want them because testing was a priority for them. So they were determining if like when they want those devices given to them, but we have them set aside and waiting to be distributed to them.
I'm fine with that part. What I'm talking about is Chromebooks that come back, even if they are beyond repair. Understandable, totally understand that they're beyond repair. Another issue is the fact that we're not holding our students accountable. If a student stands there and intentionally breaks a Chromebook or throws it at another student, drops it on the ground, leave it out in the rain, you could only imagine security bringing me a ton of Chromebooks at the end of the day. Oh, this was found outside. This was found down in the cafeteria. Our kids are not being held accountable on these Chromebooks.
And Ms. Commodore, I would ask that you have that conversation with your school administration. Not the central office.
Okay.
Because we discussed this again at our meeting last week. Oh, okay.
Excuse me, Mary, the Chromebooks are provided to the schools. We also have a listing of ways in which we are holding people accountable. Excuse me, at the end of the year, if Chromebooks are not brought back, there's a process that we go through to try to capture dollars. If Chromebooks are not taken care of, I know that there are some schools that do not allow students to take them home. You only use the Chromebooks within the school day at the school. And the school has the ability to do that because you all have that information more so than we would in terms of students intentionally mishandling the Chromebooks.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly and getting full clarity. The school administrators are the ones who can determine how the discipline should be handled with the student intentionally damaging a Chromebook.
Just like the school does with any other infraction that a student has in the school building. And I will send an email now to the administration and copy you on it so that there's not miscommunication.
Okay, thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Yep.
The one thing that I would add, and is it possible when those computers are returned and some are beyond repair, can they be differentiated as to which ones are functional and which ones are not, so
Yes.
that we can go accordingly?
Yes, they do leave in the pink slip that we add in the paper, add in the Chromebook. We write the description of what's wrong with it. And if it's fixable, they'll write on it, fix, changed port, change keyboards. Or if it's beyond broken, they say unable to be fixed.
Okay, so I
And
misunderstood. That wasn't clear. I misunderstood.
My apologies.
And I think that we could also, though, provide some more direction. If Chromebooks are beyond repair, to me, it doesn't make sense for them to remain at the school. We need to take them out of inventory. So that is a process that we need to ensure that we're doing. And maybe it may not be something that everybody is aware that that's happening.
And Halid might be able to speak to this, but we actually started doing that, 3 weeks ago, where they aren't returned to us and that the DCIU takes them out of the Google admin console for inventory. So that is something implemented based upon feedback from schools.
Yeah, we take care of that piece right now. So
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there other additional hands? Dr. B. Coates?
I do not see any. Hold on, Ms. Malik.
Well,
Ms. Mashinda?
Hi, good evening, board.
Good evening.
Dr. B. Coates. I forgot what I wanted. I'll email you, Dr. B. Coates. I think it was something not involving education wise so much. So I'll send you an email.
Okay, no problem.
All right, y'all have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it?
Yes.
Once again, thank you for the updates and your participation this evening. It's been helpful and enlightening. And then I just wanted to say for those who are here and on behalf of the school board and the administration, season's greetings. We wanted to also acknowledge the thank you for the recognition pay, which should be in place this coming Friday. So as a whole, we are, as a school board and administration, looking at ways to better our community, our school community, look at retention, move our district forward. And I believe that was one of the very exciting things that we were able to do. And so again, season's greeting and thank you everyone for your participation this evening. And those of you who are not feeling well, coughing, I see you all. Take care of yourself.